If you are into hi-fi with any level of seriousness, you will know that hi-fi shows exist and that they have been running all over the world since the 1960s, I believe. And there are some shows that seem like pivotal moments in the hi-fi calendar, where many manufacturers ready their latest products for announcement and or release. And I say it like that because quite often products get announced, but they're not released until much later. And that is more common than it probably should be. And I can think of four big hi-fi shows that are probably all battling for the mantle of the world's best show. Probably top of the pile, arguably anyway, would be the High End show that was running last week for the first time in Vienna, Austria. The High End really is two hi-fi shows in one because for 2 days it's a trade show. So that means only people that work in the trade, so people that work in the hi-fi industry, so other manufacturers, dealers, distributors, media, members of the press, only they can attend. And I think the intention here is for manufacturers to be able to show their new products to the people that sell them, their dealers and their distributors. And I also think there is a lot of business that gets done over those 2 days. But for members of the press like me, we often get invited to new product launch events where the manufacturer tells us about their new products. And I think they hope that the press write about them, or one better, they make videos about them. At the weekend, the High End is open to the public and becomes a normal hi-fi show where everyone can see, touch, listen to and talk about loads and loads and loads of different hi-fi products from all over the world, all in one place. And the High End is a huge hi-fi show, and the sheer variety of hi-fi gear on display, it's incredible, and that is no exaggeration. And I think the prospect of having access to all of that hi-fi equipment to listen to, look at and touch, maybe not touch so much, but look at and listen to, all in one place, right, surely has a lot of appeal to anyone who's into hi-fi with any level of seriousness, especially if you're at like the baller level of hi-fi with very deep pockets, because there is a lot of very big money hi-fi at the show. And I think enough there to tickle the fancy for even the most stubborn of audiophile who's not bought anything new since 1983, and you know who you are. However, this year, I distinctly noticed a lot more mainstream hi-fi manufacturers being there. I mean, even Fuzzy Audio, the Chinese masters of ultra-affordable hi-fi, were exhibiting. So it's not only a show for millionaires. And I attended the show just for the 2 trade days. And I thought it would be, good to share my thoughts and feelings about some of the new products that I saw, focusing mostly on the more affordable end of what was at the show. But I also want to share my thoughts and feelings about the new venue, because hopefully that might help anybody who plans to attend next year. And I think what's great about a new venue is that it was almost like wiping the slate clean, and it was nice to not see the same manufacturers in the same place as every year prior. And that meant a brand like Eversolo could have a much bigger presence at this show than I have ever seen before or I expected to see. And I visited their room probably 3 times throughout the 2 days, and it was always jam-packed with people, literally rammed with people. And you have to remember, all of those people, they all work in the trade, right? So it was incredible to see that many people in there so often. And I think maybe that is because Eversolo announced a lot of new products, with only one of them being released at the show, and that is their new T10 streaming transport. I have one, I think, on its way to me now to review, which is cool. Look out for that. But it's probably because they announced lots of products. There was 2 new Gen 2 A8 products with the Masters Edition, I think it's called, having a better clock, but probably more interesting, a top-loading CD player and ripper. And I can see that being probably a new gangbuster product from them. Then there was 2 new amplifiers, one at the 6 level, one at the 8 level, like power amplifiers with fancy looking VU meters, again, just on display, but they were still very nice. There was a totally new streaming large Class AB integrated amplifier there. That looks like a very interesting product. And then for the crazies like me, they were showing a new reference clock, and I very much got quite excited by that. So look, there's a lot of new products, hell of a lot of new products there being announced, so we can start saving our pennies now. But I have to ask the question, do you think it's a good idea for a manufacturer to announce all of these products well ahead of time? Because I can see the good in it. Because if you're maybe just about to buy one of the products, or you have just bought one of their products, and then a new version like a Generation 2 or whatever comes out after, there is nothing worse than that. We've all been there, we've all experienced that, and there is nothing worse than that. So knowing new products are coming would maybe stop someone kind of going through that experience. So I can see the good in it. However, I lack patience. So when you show me new exciting things, I want to get my hands on them now. So making me wait, I don't know. I'm not sure. Is it a good idea or is it not a good idea for manufacturers to announce products very early, or should they wait to announce them until they're pretty much ready to be bought in the shops? Let me know down below. But speaking of huge, I very much noticed a clear return to larger driver speakers. And I'm not just referring to JBL's new Everest speakers that are the size of large wardrobes, because an Everest speaker, I think, has always had large drivers. What I'm actually referring to is Wharfedale's new Rosedale speakers that I was so surprised to see. I didn't even get any horizontal phone footage to show you, and I apologize for that. And Wharfedale told me the new Rosedale speakers are going to be a made in the UK new flagship speaker for them, and they feature a 15-inch bass driver. Hoorah. But probably more exciting to some will be the tweeter had a very clever waveguide around it. And Wharfedale told me that is to make the Rosedale easier to position, easier to place from like a positioning in the room and a towing point of view, to make them easier to live with and set up. And I thought that was interesting. And maybe they was overshadowed a little bit by the Rosedale, but next to them was a brand new set of Elysian speakers. And I don't really have huge amounts of details about these 2 speakers now, but like a new flagship Wharfedale and a new flagship Wharfedale, but different styles, like the Elysian, like the more modern style. Those are both speakers that really excite me, really interest me. I'm sure they'll really excite and interest a lot of you as well. So of course, I told Wharfedale to put my name down to get some here to review, and I'd like to make maybe more video content about them as well. So maybe look out for that in the future. And some other speakers that caught my attention for a similar reason were the Magnat Hydra, a speaker claiming to have the output of a horn speaker, but with the phase coherency of a point source, from a very clever new technology that uses a horn as a waveguide to control 2 mid-range drivers firing into it with the high frequencies also. And there was an example of this to look at, but my phone was behaving a bit weird, so I apologize if the footage looks a bit odd. I did try to speak to the guys from Matrix Audio, having just reviewed several of their new products, but I could not get anywhere near their booth. It was so busy, and I tried several times. But what I did like seeing was the internals of their flagship MP1 preamplifier, because it has a very cool design, one I've not seen before. And also the internals for their MA1 power amplifiers that I've had my eye on for some time. And I was very impressed by their clear dual mono design with the lots of big capacitors, big transformers and more. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because this is what I want to see at a hi-fi show. I want to see things that I normally wouldn't get to see. And I want to just mention that I thought it was fantastic to have not just a casework with a clear lid, it was a casework with clear sides also. So you could properly take a look at the preamplifier and power amplifiers design. So I think other manufacturers should take note of this, because there's no better way to show the quality of your products than that, right? Let people see, how you've built them and how you have designed them. And this is something that Revival Audio got right as well, because they had a cutaway of their new AGR speakers that you've seen sat behind me, because I have them here. And I loved being able to see the insides of them so I could see the drivers and the crossover and more. And I did pop in to speak to the guys from Revival, and they have some very cool speaker stuff in the works that I don't think I can talk about, but they were showing a new subwoofer that I can. And the reason this caught my attention is because Revival said it's using the same 12-inch bass driver that's used in the AGR speakers. And the bass from these speakers is fantastic. That's some of the reason, or a big part of the reason why I like them so much. So to think that speaker driver put into a subwoofer with a 600 watt, I believe, like active amplification or active subwoofer system, I'm pretty sure that would produce some seriously good bass, but also with a finish that matches their other Atalante speakers. So I just thought that was like a cool product idea and something that people would be interested in. And then for something totally different, Cambridge Audio released a new Evo 300 streaming amplifier that they told me was not only their most powerful amplifier of its kind, but it was also the most refined sounding. And it has a dual mono design with a balanced preamplifier and 300 Class D watts per channel into 8 ohms and 550 into 4 ohms, so a load of power from a very slimline package that looks really nice. I did get a chance to listen, but like with many hi-fi shows where it's very busy in a small room, I would say it's difficult to get a good demo, a good listening session with it. However, it sounded very nice playing through some Dynaudio Contour Legacy speakers. But this was also another opportunity for me to listen to Cambridge's, and they are small, active speakers, the LRM in this instance. And man, those speakers kick out some serious bass, some seriously surprising bass for their size. And the reason that is important is because it gives a smaller speaker like that a grander sense of scale. And Cambridge also had a cutaway of an LRX spinning around, so you could clearly see the internals and better appreciate just how much technology has been packed into them and what you are getting for the money. And speaking of technology, Hi-Fi Rose was showing their new and first ever monoblock amplifiers, the RA80, which in typical Hi-Fi Rose fashion stops you in your tracks and makes you say, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. And these amplifiers have a full-sized screen on their front, like full-sized touch screen. And it's a much higher quality screen than we are used to seeing, or I'm used to seeing on hi-fi products. I thought it was an OLED screen because it was clear, it was crisp, it was bright, and it was also like high contrast. And if you think a screen like that gives Rose endless possibilities of what they could display on that as part of, like, I don't know, VU meters or whatever they want to put on there. So that was really very standout nice. Again, never seen anything like it before. And I also liked like the continuation of the design down the sides of the amplifiers too. They're just lovely things. And I heard them just a little bit, and I would have to assume they're going to be GaN-FET based power amplifiers. But again, it was just an announcement. There's very little information available for them at the moment, but I've got my name down to review some, of course. And lastly, I want to mention Arcam's new 50th anniversary A50 integrated amplifier, which I spent a lot of time talking to Arcam about. And it's the first time Arcam have implemented dual mono Class G amplifications in a product. And they told me they wanted to keep it compact, slimline. They also wanted to keep it relatively affordable, but without taking away any of the modern features that people have become accustomed to. So as usual for the high end, lots of manufacturers announced and released new products. In fact, I received so many emails for new product announcements and releases that I was overwhelmed. There were so many, and I've literally scratched the surface in this video of the stuff that was announced or released there. But what I like about that, and what it shows me, is that the hi-fi industry, or the manufacturers in this industry, are working really hard to excite us and to give us new listening experiences. And I like that, because it's so much better than a stagnant industry that's doing nothing new, not pushing any boundaries, not doing anything to excite us. So look, I took a lot of positives away from all of this. So for the show itself and the new venue in Austria, I thought it would be a good idea for me to give you 5 tips, hopefully helpful tips for anyone who is planning to attend next year. And the first thing to consider is this is a huge hi-fi show across or spread out across a very large venue across multiple floors. And that means there can be a lot of walking down long corridors with very little there. And it was not easy for me at times to find exactly what I was looking for. And that was because my strategy was to just walk around the venue to get familiar with it, and hopefully I would just find what I was looking for. And that was a mistake. So I would give you as my first tip would be to use the guides and make a plan. And there was people there giving out paper copies of guides in like a booklet, and there is an app that you can download and use for free. And that does give you a plan of where all the exhibitors are and where all of the rooms are. And I think if you make a plan and know who you want to see in advance, you will get much more out of this venue or much more out of this show than just trying to walk around and find the places naturally. This is such a spread out venue that strategy that I took, just walking around to try and find things naturally, did not work. I think you definitely should make a plan. Otherwise, you might miss what you really wanted to see. For my second tip, I would wear very comfortable shoes because the venue is so large, you're going to do a lot of walking. I mean, I was walking around 16 kilometers per day. So that's a hell of a lot of walking for, audiophiles who are used to sitting down, eating cake and listening to music. So definitely wear comfortable shoes, but I would also take with me a shower in a can because it can get very hot in some of the rooms, and a shower in a can, aka like a traveled can of deodorant, is perfect for a quick freshen up, maybe after lunch or something, because if everybody does that, would be a nicer place for everybody to spend time in. Tip number 3 is don't forget to visit the different hall areas, as there are a lot of great brands out there. And a static display type of show, I think, definitely makes it easier for someone to talk to the manufacturer. It's difficult to talk to a manufacturer in a listening room when there's music playing and everybody's trying to be quiet. So make the most of the opportunity. If you're at the static display area in the halls, talk to the manufacturers, ask them your questions to learn as much as you can. But don't forget that most of those static kind of display booths also have a listening room built into them somewhere, because it's very easy to forget that and easy to miss it, because I've been to loads of hi-fi shows and I still forgot or missed some of them. So that would be tip number 3, visit the halls. And don't forget, once you spoke to a manufacturer, you can also go and listen to their products in the built listening rooms as well. Tip number 4 will be there is a whole headphone area with a lot of different manufacturers. Many of them have great listening facilities. So if you're considering buying any of the new headphones that are out there, especially the high-end headphones, I think there's so many to choose between. It can be difficult to know what you're going to like the sound of and definitely what you're going to find comfortable. So visiting a high-end hi-fi show, you might not think that's good for headphones, but it is. Actually, I was walking around and some of the listening areas and listening facilities with loads of different headphones that you could change between all different types of equipment. I thought that was fantastic. And for me, there'll be no better way to find what you think is comfortable and what you like the sound of than listening to all those different pairs of headphones and equipment all in the one day or 2 days. And that would be my tip number 5. If you're attending a hi-fi show of this size and scale, even if it costs you more money, go for 2 days and not 1, because 1 day is not enough to get around. And even 2 days is not really enough time to get around and see everything. You'll never see everything in 2 days. But 1 day, I think you'd be rushing so much, you wouldn't feel like you have enough time to relax and spend the time in the places that you want, especially when you're walking big distances between the different things you want to see. So give yourself plenty of time. Go for 2 days. Relax and enjoy the experiences, and make sure you get the experiences that the shows offer you, such as listening to the big and crazy systems, such as the big ESD horn systems, or the big Western Electric horns system, or the big Aries Serac systems, and all the other big systems, because of course you're probably unlikely to ever buy a system like that. However, getting an experience and seeing it and listening to it, even if just for the craziness of it, is something you should do. It's like it's fun, right? It's part of an experience. It's a fun part of like an audio experience to get new experiences. And really, that for me is what a hi-fi show is all about. For me, it's not about trying to listen to and demo individual products, because you can never get a personal listening experience at a hi-fi show. If you want to listen to something, to demo it, to potentially buy it, that is what a hi-fi dealer is for, because you'll get a personal listening experience. What a hi-fi show is brilliant for is for listening to lots of different things, lots of different systems, to try and help you find out what you do and do not like more. Because it's fine when you listen to the same thing all of the time, but it's not the same as listening to different things. And I'm always looking for little nuggets of what I like. So listening to one system, I might really like how it does vocals, or another system I might really like how it does soundstage. And though that is generally better than what I normally get. And that is how we learn as audiophiles. We only learn about sound quality through experiencing better. Because otherwise, how do we know what better is? We can't know what better is until we experience it, until we've heard it. And that's so important. So for me, a hi-fi show is just about experiencing new things, putting yourself out there. But it's also about, and this is my favorite thing about hi-fi shows, is talking to people. I just want to say a huge thank you to everybody who came up and spoke to me, especially those who thank me for what I do, because as you can imagine, I put a huge amount of hours into every single video now for over 9 years, and it's massively rewarding and gratifying when people thank you for that. Of course, it is. But really, I just had so many great conversations, and if you're a manufacturer, dealer, or distributor, or whatever, and we had a conversation about anything work related, please understand I had so many conversations with so many people. It's all a bit of a whirlwind. So if we had a conversation about something, please contact me, because it's difficult to remember everything. But one conversation I'll never forget is with a lovely couple, with a chap from Greece and his wife, who was British, obviously from Britain, obviously. And I'm sure she said she was a professional musician playing in an orchestra or something like that. And we had a fantastic conversation, or not debate really, but we was discussing my favorite topic, which was bass. And it was fascinating to listen to her talk about the kind of sound she likes and what she's used to, obviously from playing in an orchestra and stuff. And then she listened to me and what I like about bass, and why I like a lot of it, and how that benefits these different styles of music. And it was just fantastic to have a conversation with somebody who sees audio different to me. However, I definitely learned from that conversation with her, learned about different things, and hopefully our shared experiences could benefit, or would benefit, or have benefited each other. And to me, that's really what it's all about. And that's the best thing about hi-fi shows to me: seeing new things, meeting new people, and having new experiences. But of course, some shows will do that, or do that better than others, just the same as absolutely everything.